Hello, Rob.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So you guys had a chance to see the trailer, so we can ask about anything that's in the movie.
Sure.
Anything at all. First up, we were talking about this back in the green room, and I want to get an answer to this question almost right away. There's a gag where you are in full camouflage
Yes.
body paint. I had thought it was CG. You told me that it's not.
No, it's not CGI. This is a wonderful artist by the name of Carolyn Roper over in England. That's where she lives. She came over to Atlanta where we filmed it, and she painted me. So the first day I put on this leotard, very flattering. If you've never put on a full body unitard, you should try it sometime. Put that on, and then she painted the outline of me against, the vending machine and certain other places in the movie. And then the next day I came back and put it back on, and then she filled it in. She painted me head to toe, literally top of my head to my toes. And that took probably around 6 hours of having to stand perfectly still. And no bathroom breaks, as you can imagine.
Did you ever ask why it couldn't be CG? Like halfway through the painting, you're like, we could have done this.
No, I just realized I didn't even ask. I should have asked. What was I thinking? I didn't. I was like, okay.
So
they
clearly,
go, stand over there and do that. I go, okay.
So clearly you had full trust in the Farrelly brothers here.
Too much, apparently.
A lot of faith.
Yes. And I played twins. This is another thing I just realized last night. I played twins in this movie, and I didn't ask for 2 paychecks. How dumb am I? So there you go.
You're like the perfect actor to cast.
That's I think maybe why I'm getting work is because get Dummy over there. He'll do anything.
Talk to me about working with Jim and Jeff on this. They're recreating a groove, characters that they had done 20 years ago. Were you sort of around them while did they ever have conversations about how they could recreate it, how they could get back into it, or did they just do it?
They just did it. I think, and I think also when they get their hair, when Chef Daniels gets his hair shot out like that, and when Jim gets the bowl cut and takes the cap off his tooth, so it's, I think they just kind of go right back into those characters. But yeah, it was really fun to get to work with them and watch them transform. Because, you're sitting there having lunch and talking, having a normal conversation about whatever, life, politics, kids, whatever it is. And then, boom, we go back from lunch and they're being super dumb again.
Well, there's something interesting about their dumbness this time around. There's a lot of people who say with comedy, there's a sort of PC police that go along with it. But because these guys are so...
PC police.
Well, you are talking to
they're
the
death,
Huffington
they're
Post
the death
here,
of
Rob.
comedy a little bit. I mean, they really are, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say their dumbness almost allows that to be thrown out the window. There are moments where I was so surprised that where this movie went almost further than the first movie. Yeah. Were you surprised by that, working with the
No, I mean, I love it. You should be irreverent. You should be causing trouble. You should make people go, oh, God, can they do that? Yes, we just did it. Suck it. It just happened. That's the way it is. Grow up. It's there's no guarantees, and no one guaranteed you weren't going to be offended in life. It's just deal with it. But yes, they don't. Yeah, I could go on for hours. Sorry.
Go ahead, Rob, please. The PC police thing. Go ahead.
And another thing. No, they're wonderful. I'm glad it's like that. It should be like that. It should be fun. It should be shocking at times, and it is. And yeah, I think when you get to play dumb, you get a little license to do that. That's kind of one of the fun things in life. A lot of the comedy characters that I play. It's one of my favorite comedy games is Arrogant Ignorance. That's what I call it. It's what I consider when you're large and in charge and totally stupid, or totally, wrong-headed. And that, to me, that's always a license to go do and say things that you would never, ever normally do or say. And there's a lot of joy to be found in that, comedically speaking.
How early along in the process did you start working on the film? I know the Farrelly brothers, a lot of time, they have a very sort of pre-production writing process that involves a lot of comedians doing read-throughs, not just the writers on it, but people throwing out lines, just contributing.
They're very collaborative, which is wonderful for, I think, a comedy movie. And that's another reason I really love the Farrelly brothers. They are truly about the comedy, serving the comedy. It's really, all egos are checked at the door. And Jim and Jeff are that way too. It's what's the funniest thing we can do in this scene? Because we'll do the scene and we'll be like, that was awesome, that was hilarious. What else? What else can we do? Can we do something? Let's try this. Oh, then if that's funnier, if that trumps what we just did, then that's what will make the movie. And to me, that's serving the comedy, and that's great.
Like no one stepping forward and being like, well, that was my line, and it doesn't matter what's funnier.
No, that doesn't exist. That really doesn't. That's another reason I think these guys are so great. All of them, the whole cast and the Farrelly brothers, because that stuff is not tolerated.
Have you ever had that experience before? I mean, obviously, without naming names, I don't have any particular story in mind. But have you ever had an experience like that where you're on a set and it seems like the funniest thing is being trumped by the bigger name or by the bigger ego?
Yes, absolutely.
What's that like?
It's soul depleting.
As horrible as you would think by my description, obviously.
It makes you sad. You're like, this was the funniest thing I've ever heard, but you'd rather do this because you look better in that outfit? But okay, I guess that's what we'll do. I'm not in charge, clearly.
What's when you're working with someone like the Farrelly brothers and you're working with someone like Adam McKay, which I also love your role in Step Brothers, and
thanks.
I think some of the deleted scenes in Step Brothers involving you are funnier than most movies that come out in a year.
Well, thank you.
If you haven't seen them, they're on YouTube. Oh my God. But what's
that was straight up it. Well, the good thing, like Adam McKay and Will and myself, we all are improvisers. We all came from that world. I started right here in New York at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, and I was so lucky because Matt Walsh, Ian Roberts, Matt Besser, and Amy Poehler were all my teachers. They were the original Upright Citizens Brigade members, and when they started their theater and their school, there was only 4 teachers. There were only 4 of them. And they only had 3 levels, and I took all 3 levels twice, just so I could have each one of them as a teacher. And I had Amy was a teacher, and Matt Walsh, and so I felt very lucky to have those folks as teachers. And they all came from Chicago at Improv Olympic and Second City, which is where McKay and Tina Fey and Carell and Colbert and all these people were at the time. So it's very small little circles. But then when you get to work on a movie with Adam McKay and Will Ferrell, they're improvisers. That's where they thrive. That's where they have fun. And so when you get into a scene like that deleted scene,
should we describe the deleted scene for those who haven't?
Yeah, it actually the POW scene replaced the deleted scene. So the scene where I'm screaming POW and I'm talking to Will about running the Catalina wine mixer. There's a scene was shot before that because actually the POW scene was a reshoot.
You can see in the Farrell's wig.
Yeah. So the first scene was basically just improv, and we were basically we got to a point where usually what McKay does, his style is you shoot one by the book, all right, as scripted, because that's what the studio paid for, and you have to do that. Then you do notes on that scene, and you do it a second time with notes, so little tweaks, little improvements, and then once you've done those 2 things, you've done your obligation to the studio, and now it's time to play and have some fun. And I love that because then he goes, all right, good, we got those done. We've done our due diligence. Let's have some fun. And then we rock it out for 5 or 6 takes. I don't know how he burns as much film as he does, but he must have mountains. You could probably make 3 films out of one of his films, just with the outtakes. But then we go 5, 6 times of just make-em-ups, goofing around, trying to say the most shocking thing, trying to do the most disturbing thing. And it's not that we're trying to make each other laugh, but we are trying to make each other laugh in a way, because if we do, it feels good. Like when I make Will break, I don't sleep for days. It's like the greatest thing in the world to make Will Ferrell break or Adam McKay break. If I make them laugh, I feel like it was all worth it.
Is he the hardest person you've worked with to make break?
Yeah, he's pretty tough. I say only tough, only because he really does immerse himself in his characters. He goes deep, like he disappears. And then he's that character, which is great. So to get him to acknowledge what's going on in the world around is a good thing. But anyway, in that deleted scene, we're literally I'm just yelling at him. I'm describing testicles in too much detail. I'm talking about the difference between being a loser and a winner. In the process, I have a heart attack and die. And then I come back to life when Adam Scott comes in the room, and I ask him if he saw my Nana out in the hall, and he says, no, you saw her in your head because you died. And I was like, nah, what are you talking about? You have to see it. It's a lot of fun. But it's like, that's improv scenes. They go anywhere. You can start out, like if you go down to the UCB and you watch a show, an improv scene will start out with two guys in a car driving down the road, and by the end of the scene, one of them's on a crucifix. It just happens. And you can't explain why, but you have to yes and go with it. So that's half the fun. And like in Step Brothers, one of the things that did make it, I had no idea Adam Scott was going to say, or Randy here is going to eat your dick. I had no idea he was going to say that, but I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to go, no, I won't, because then the scene's over. You can't kill it. You have to embrace it. So I was like, you're goddamn right. And I started.
Like Kobayashi.
Yeah, like Kobayashi, baby. That was the first thing I thought of. How weird is that? When he'll eat your dick. Well, I thought, eat a dick, hot but Kobayashi. Here we go. So, and then you go with it, and you heighten it, and that's what improv, and that's why it's fun.
Is it like that on Dumb and Dumber 2, or have you guys really worked out what's funny before you start rolling?
Well, the script was funny. If you start with a funny script, you're way ahead of the curve. So that always helps. Because then you don't, less work. I think Bill Murray had a great quote one time. He said he picked he picked the scripts he did based on how much he had to rewrite it. And when you start out with a great script, you're ahead of the curve. My characters in Dumb and Dumber 2, I'm the kind of the straight guy. I'm not. Everybody, if everybody on screen is crazy, it doesn't work. So you have to have somebody be straight to ground the scene so that the crazy can pop and it makes it more enjoyable and more fun. If someone's an advocate for the audience, that's what a straight guy is. They're the advocate for the audience. They're the one going, why are you doing that? Stop, and then it allows the crazy people to be crazy.
Do you enjoy playing the straight man? I feel like you're rarely cast as the straight man.
I don't get many chances to play the straight. Usually I play the big jerk, big obnoxious guy, or some sort of big form of myself, which is already big to begin with. But like in the last two, like Let's Be Cops and this, I am playing more straight guy role, and I love it. I personally love it. I think if you have a good straight person, straight man, whatever, politically correct. But if you're a good straight person, it's so important to the comedy. And a good one, you don't even know they're doing it. So, yeah, I think it's an important part of the equation, and I'm proud to play it.
You talk about improvisation a lot. I'm curious about 22 Jump Street, because one of the running gags in that movie is that Channing Tatum's character can't improvise with everybody else. And when I saw the movie, I was like, that has to be about his own insecurity in filming the first movie or something. That
Maybe.
Can't be
I know
out
he
of
was
nowhere.
nervous. I know in the first one he was nervous about, getting in there and hooking and jabbing on the comedy. I got to tell you, he's funny. He's a funny, natural, confident, funny guy. So I was like, I don't know what you're nervous about. You're hilarious. Your instincts are so right on the money. You're golden. But I'm sure he had that feeling of that. But I loved in 22 at the beginning.
Hefe?
when Hefe, that wonderful moment of defeat that washes over him when he's like, Hefe. It was delivered. I mean, see, those were instincts, and that he had it, and he knew it, and he nailed it. And I got a crush on Channing Tatum. Big deal.
I'm sorry, no, but who does not have a crush
exactly.
on Channing Tatum? You're lying
Exactly.
if you say you don't.
Exactly.
Talk to me about The Daily Show last night. You made a quick appearance on The Daily Show last night as
I
Money.
was so happy that worked out. Because I landed like at 7 o'clock and had to go straight from the airport over, and I was so glad they asked me. I love those guys over there, and I miss them. So any chance I get to see them or hang out with them, and they were like, "It's the big election night coverage, so we're not going on until late. We're going on at 11." And I was like, "Oh, I can make it. I can make it." And so I got to go over and play with them, and it was a blast.
Did you flub a line though at the end? Sorry.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Do you want to speak to the line that you flubbed, Rob?
It was going so well. It was going so well, and what happened was I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but the fucking teleprompter person. No, it was scrolling, and I was so in the moment, having so much fun. I looked over at Jonesy. I was with Jason Jones. I looked over at Jonesy at one point, and I was saying, ah, ha, ha, and I looked back, and the line was gone. And I went, because they changed the script. You know, you do it right, then you do a rehearsal, then they do a rewrite, and then they hand you the sides right before you go out there because they've rewritten some of the stuff. So you're like, and then it's on prompter or whatever. But it wasn't there when I needed it, so then I did the old, and then I tried to do the, I tried to fill it with noise, where you, I'm stalling, I'm stalling. And then it came back to me, and I could hear John. John was laughing.
Oh, he was laughing, yeah.
He was laughing, because it's a live show. He gets it. Shit's going to happen, And he started to laugh. But I didn't want him to cut the bit off because I liked the ending. The ending, I was playing, for anybody who didn't see it last night, I was playing Money. Just Money. That was who I was. And at the end of the thing, I go, hey, Jonesy, let's get out of here and go roll me up and get this party started right. Toot, toot. And then there's a pause, and I go, I'm talking about cocaine. And I wanted to get that out. But all I got out, I don't know, it was butchered, but I thought it ended okay. But yes, there was a flub. Thank you for noticing.
But when you have a flub like that, I mean, obviously you want things to go as smoothly as possible.
Sure.
You don't want things to be an obvious flub. But it seems like everybody working with you has an amazing time when someone flubs.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to get really excited.
There is joy. When you're doing a live show, there is joy. There's joy in it because there's energy and there's stakes and there's risk. You're doing something on tape. Okay, yeah, you make a mistake, it happens. It's always going to happen. And then you go back and correct it. But when you're on the high wire of live TV and something goes wrong, well, you adjust in the moment, or or you let it unravel. And you never want to bail on a bit. Never be a quitter. Mm-hmm. Never be a quitter. So you don't bail on the bit. You just kind of power through it. And that's why, like SNL, I loved SNL because that's the thing. It's every week. It's a live wire. My second show was when Ashley Simpson walked off the stage. That was my second show, and I was standing there watching. Because all the performers come out and watch the live musical acts, and all of a sudden she did the little hoedown and walked off, and I was standing next to Leo Allen, who was one of the writers. And again, my second show, and I go, does she know this is live? I was so panicked because I thought maybe she doesn't know this is live. And he was like, and I remember because I think he'd already started drinking at the time. And he was like, he just was looking straight and he goes, this is awesome. So yeah, live TV, it's a high wire. But again, that's where the joy is. You gotta have fun. And if things don't go well, they don't go well. You get back up and you keep it going.
There's also something even more fun or funny for a comedian sometimes, which is to watch something break. Rather than watch something go well, there's something hilarious
Go to YouTube. If you haven't seen the Debbie Downer.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen when Lindsay Lohan's the host? But go to YouTube, go wherever you need to go, but see this and keep it close by to make you happy. Yeah. I watch it constantly. Still, 8 years later, I still watch it. Tears come down my face still. Because I know, well, I'm lucky enough to know all of them. I know Rachel.
Were you there at the time
that
happened?
That was the year before I joined the cast. So, but I was friends with all of them because I did improv with all of them. Horatio and Amy and Rachel. So I knew all of them and I performed with them. I did ASCAT down at UCB with them. So I was friends with them and I knew them. So, and that's maybe I have a personal connection, but that's why I love seeing it. But even if you don't, it's so everything. It just all came together, and it was the last show of that season. It was the last show of the spring of 2004. So last show of the season, they were all exhausted. I know what it's like to be at the end of a 3-week run on SNL, and you're physically exhausted, you're emotionally exhausted, you're just slap happy. You can't get it together. You get goofy, you get weird, and you're doing a scene, and you lose it. And you can't get it back. It's that church laugh where the harder you try to suppress it, the worse it's going to spill out. It's like squeezing sand or it's just gone. Forget it. And I watched him unravel, and it was the most satisfying thing on earth. It really is.
Would you say from your experience, the end of a 3-week run on SNL produces the best episode because of how slap happy the performers and the writers get?
Yeah, it's a crapshoot. Sometimes you got like really fun, silly stuff that just came from a place of pure joy. And a lot of times you got a lot of fatigued, burned out, I'm pissed and tired. So it could have gone either way. There was a big divergence, just depending.
Talk to me about when you joined The Daily Show after coming out of the Marine Corps. I always think that trajectory is so fascinating, and I don't think you ever hear of someone coming out of the military and being like, I'm a comedian now, and I'm on a liberal...
Time for some yucks.
And I'm on a liberal comedy show
Thanks
as well.
for Afghanistan, but I'm going to go do some yucks. Yeah. Well, I had been pursuing, I was actually stationed in New York City. It was my last active duty tour. So I was stationed in New York. I did Marines during the day and comedy at night. I deployed to Albania and Kosovo during that time, came back, was still doing shows at the UCB. I was even teaching at the UCB at that point.
Did your Marine buddies know that you were doing this?
The Marines didn't really knew about my other life. They really
Rob's
didn't.
doing that comedy thing tonight.
Yeah, they go, what are you doing, Riggle? What are you doing? You doing that comedy? Good luck with that, man. Let me know how that goes. All right, fine.
Yeah, that's how I always pictured it.
No, I'm making fun of. Look, the military. I'm going to defend the Marines for a second. The Marines are just like any other branch service. They're a microcosm of society. They were great, wonderful, some of the best people I've ever met in my entire life. Guys that I would literally die for in the Marines. And there's also a bunch of knuckleheads. Just like if I walk out the door right now, I will run into great people and knuckleheads. So that's just the way it is across the board. But no, I never shared my Marines, my comedy side. All my comedy friends knew I was in the Marines. Couldn't hide it. I had a high and tight for the most part. But I just never did it. I never showed that side to the Marines. I was an officer, and I never wanted my Marines to think that I didn't take their lives seriously or our mission seriously, or, because good order and discipline, it's a whole different thing. So I wore 2 hats, and I kept them separate. But yeah, I was I went to Kosovo after 9/11. I actually worked on the rubble piles. I was in the reserves. I left active duty in 2000, but I went in the reserves. And my reserve unit's right here in Manhattan, MTU 17. And when 9/11 happened, they closed the bridges and tunnels, and my reserve unit was the only one in Manhattan. So I got activated on the night of September 11th. And next morning of September 12th, I reported to Ground Zero and worked on the rubble piles for the next 6 days, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, moving rubble by hand in the bucket brigades. And then after September 18th, they declared it no longer search and rescue, but search and recovery, so they could bring in the heavy equipment. The reason we all had bucket brigades is because it was 6 stories of rubble. We didn't know if we could move it by hand, or if we brought in heavy machinery, we thought there would be cave-ins, and we didn't know if there were people down there who were still alive. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I ended up working down at Ground Zero till September 30th, and then after that, I got called back to active duty on November 10th. I reported to Central Command down in Tampa on November 17th, and then November 30th of 2001, I was in Afghanistan. So it happened very quickly. And then I did my time, did my year, did 2 tours over there, came back, and about a year later, I got on Saturday Night Live. So, but that was the kind of the journey and I stayed in the reserves. I stayed in the reserves all the way until last year, and I retired last year.
Did those experiences ever inform your decisions on The Daily Show, the political message that The Daily Show might have had? Did you ever receive correspondence from former Marine members of the Marines?
I get all kinds of things. You get the hardcore right wingers who are like, "What the hell, Riggle? What's all this liberal bullshit?" It's like, oh, suck it. And then I get people from the left who are mad that I'm not hitting it the hard. You can never make everybody happy. There's haters everywhere. But a lot of people were very proud and very happy that I was doing it. But I never, ever allowed any politics necessarily to mess with the comedy. I think comedy comes first. You got to serve the comedy.
Absolutely. Is it questions time? I think it's time for questions. Right here in the front.
Thank you for coming. I'm a big fan. Also, thank you for your service. You played a lot of funny roles. Do you find that people don't take you seriously sometimes?
Sure, yeah. And there's also that expectation, because a lot of the characters I play are, big jerky types, that they I don't know, people can't differentiate, I guess. They somehow don't understand that those are usually characters and not me. So I guess they assume I'm a big jerk. So I end up having to be over nice a lot of the time, which is exhausting, because I would like to tell them to go fuck themselves. I'm kidding. But yeah, no. Look, I love comedy. I'm the biggest comedy fan in the world. I can't get enough. And that's why I work in it. But yeah, I was a theater and film major in college, and I studied the method here in New York for 3 years. And if given the opportunity to do something more dramatic, I would jump at the chance. But I don't have that much control over that unless I were to sit down and write my own one-man dramatic piece. So.
Have you seen Steve's performance in Foxcatcher yet?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that, though. Very much so.
They were both on The Daily Show together. I thought maybe,
Maybe I would support him.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe he'd say something really mean about it. I don't know. Any other questions? I'll ask more questions if you guys don't. Here we go.
When you were overseas, did you ever find yourself kind of like drawing on your comedic mind to keep yourself positive or the people around you?
Yeah, yes. Among some of my fellow officers or whatever, I never stopped being myself. So I was, if there was opportunities for some fun, yeah, I would take the chance. What I found myself doing most of my time in the Marine Corps was studying people, observing. I pull from like high school football coaches and drill instructors and people like that. And if I find a really good jerk or a Class A asshole, I've been cussing my brains out. Can I cuss on this?
I think
I
that
know
you
I'm
can
way
cuss all
late
you
on
want.
asking that question, but okay. So anyway, if I find jerks or whatever, I actually use them as character studies, and I try to remember, like there's guys that have like certain ways of saying things and certain looks and ways of being dismissive or sarcastic or even the verbiage they use. I'm like, oh, that was a good phrase. I got to remember that because that was the douchiest thing I ever heard. File that away.
What's a moment of your time in the Marine Corps where you thought to yourself immediately, putting that in the back pocket, going to use that later?
Oh, man. Nothing's jumping to mind right now. Give me a second. I'll try and remember something.
Okay. Should we take another question while we?
Yeah, let's do
that.
that.
I don't want to interrupt your thought process, though.
Yeah, there's really only one wheel, and it just spins
no
slowly.
multitasking. Yeah. Do we have any other questions? Guys. Please.
Nothing?
There we go.
Which TV crew is tighter, SNL or Daily Show? Which was the better crew?
Ooh.
Who do you want to piss off here?
I was about to say, I still like going to the SNL after parties.
Yeah.
But I was just at the Daily Show. Apples and oranges, I'm going to say. They're both great. They both have great qualities.
One's every night, the other one's once a week.
Right,
They have different
it's hard
time
to put them
off.
on the same scale. That's like people ask me that all the time. They're like, what do you like better, New York or LA? And I love both and I hate both for different reasons, It's
What do you hate about New York, Rob?
nothing.
What do you got?
The 6th line. Oh my God, the 6th line. I lost part of my youth on the 6th line. Just waiting on those platforms, and you know what it's like when you overdress because it's a walking town. Then you get on the platforms, you have too many layers on, you're sweating. You get in, you're sweating. Someone's grabbing your butt. Yeah, it's just weird. It's
Or middle of
awful.
July, you're sweating, but it's like a greasy, gross sweat, and there's
Yeah.
a rat on the platform.
And then half of the car is not being used because someone pooped.
Yeah. Don't you always feel so bad when that happens, though? Because
Yeah.
the guy who pooped is always there.
Yeah,
and
he's
he
still
knows-
laying there, and
he
you're
knows
like,
he pooped. And
wake
he
him
can't
up,
do
just wake
anything
him
about
up.
it, and everyone is on the other side of the car, and you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm over here too because you pooped. And
Yeah. Or the subway pulls into the station and you're like, oh, open car. And then you get in, you're like, oh, That's why it's open.
Yeah. So many seats. Oh, yeah.
It smells like poop in
That's
here.
why.
And you have to endure it for one stop. Oh, well. What are you going to do?
We gave you some time. Did you multitask here? It's okay if you did.
No, I was trying to remember, drill instructors, and they were always just sarcastic, so I always remember the sarcasm that they used. If they ask you a question like, Riggle, what's 2 + 2? And you're like, 4, drill instructor, and they're like, amazing. We got us an Einstein, and you're like, no, you didn't. This is going overboard. I get the point. I know better. I remember one time in boot camp, I was, I don't know why, but we just got done doing a run, and my endorphins had kicked in, and so I was just zesty and happy. And the way you take showers is you grab a towel and a bar of soap, you hold the towel over your head, and the whole platoon runs into the shower, and they turn all 8 shower heads on at once, and you never stop moving. You just run through the showers, and you do this, and you just do a quick wash as fast as you can, and then you exit out, and you get back in, dry off, get your clothes on, we're moving. You're just moving, you're constant motion. And for whatever reason, I don't know, we had just done like a 3 or 4 mile run, and I don't know, I just had endorphins, so I was like, I was whistling. Why would I do that? And the drill instructor was like, who the hell is working on the goddamn railroad in my head? And everybody froze. And I was like, I'm working on the railroad, I guess, in your head? So I had to go, he goes, I had to go, get over here, man, you piece of shit. So I run over and I'm like, I started struck this cat at Riggle reporting. And he's like, what's on? And so he's dressing me down. He goes, well, you know what to do, stupid. So that means get down and start pushing. So you get down and do push-ups. And I was totally nude. And it's cold. But my little thing just kept dipping into a puddle. Every push-up. I was like,
How many push-ups did you have to do?
Well, you do it until muscle failure. So I don't know how many do you
So
probably like 4.
And where exactly was the muscle failure?
Yeah, exactly. You do it till you can't push yourself up anymore. So you just
Right.
keep going and going and going, and then eventually you're doing the, and that's when they finally go, all right, get up, go, and then you get to go. But that was a bad day, and all because I was happy.
That was perfect. That was a perfect story.
There you go. All right. There you go.
I think we have to wrap it up here, unless anybody has one more question. I just like putting you guys on the spot. There we go, right here.
My voice is pretty loud, so I don't
No, take the mic.
Okay. Is there one person that you feed off of the most in any of your films or anything that you've worked on?
Oh, Adam McKay. And I'm not in scenes with him, but he's a director. He was head writer at SNL, but he and Will have Gary Sanchez and Funny or Die, and that's their company.
Directed
Anyway,
Step Brothers and Talladega Nights and Anchorman.
he's directed a lot of Will's big ones. But I don't know, I think he and I speak the same language comedically. And when he's off camera, he's back in Video Village or whatever, and you're doing the scene, he will yell out things that are, so funny that you break just hearing him yell out things because he's just throwing you things to feed off of, and he knows you will take it and add to it and add to it and add to it. So I would say working with Adam McKay is always joyful to me. And Will's, I put them in the same category. I remember in Step Brothers, there's probably 20 takes of me telling Will in differing ways how, it ended up, we used the one where I said I didn't like his face. And if he didn't change it, I was going to change it for him and all this stuff. But there was a dozen other ones where I came up to him because he was running the Catalina wine mixer, and the narrative changed too, so there was things that didn't match up. But there was one where I was just questioning him about how to get a body off the island, and helping me bury a body, and things that he couldn't possibly answer. But watching him struggle with that,
I was trying to remember
I
that.
think we both broke, actually. And it's in the deleted scenes, I think, when I was talking about choking him or punching him or something.
Drop him to the temple or something.
Yeah. I'm going to take one of these and hit you in the temple. But I couldn't keep it together. Like, I broke, he broke. It was.
He was going like, I don't want that.
I don't want that.
I don't.
I
Please
don't want
do that.
Yeah. And I kept describing how all the different ways I was going to take him out. And anyway, there's just working with those guys is pure joy.
This has been so much fun. I worry that we've done more to promote the Step Brothers gag reel
I
than
know.
we've done
Go,
for Dumb and
yeah,
Dumber 2.
exactly.
It's available on YouTube.
I do hope people go see Dumb and Dumber 2. I know
It's very funny.
Dumb
It's
and very,
Dumber.
very funny. I know it. To me, it was a great movie. I quote it still to this day. And I do Dumb and Dumber 2. If you like the first one, I really think you're going to enjoy this one. There's a lot of laughs in this.
What's your favorite Dumb and Dumber quote?
Don't you go dying on me.
All right, Rob, don't you go dying on me. Thank
All
you.
right,
It's
thank
been a
you.
pleasure talking to you. Thanks, man.